Good morning, option addicts. It's Tuesday. What is today? The 22nd. Happy Tuesday to you all. Hopefully the week's treating you well. Just throwing another video up here today. Some watch list items that I have. This video here, I'm just going to start with a couple price patterns that I'm watching, and we'll move on from there. Starting with ATI. Stock been on a lot of people's radars that I know. And this stock's trying to coil up here recently and forming a little bit of a triangle. And if the stock does anything like it's done in the past, we should see a pretty good movement to the upside. So this one here, pretty short term, kind of borderline between what I would call a pennant, what I would call a symmetrical triangle. But no matter what you call it, it still represents the same thing. Price action's coiling up. The target price is going to be about 15 points based on the distance between support and resistance from 105 to about 120. So we're looking for a 15-point break to the upside in continuation of this trend. So ATI, again, don't make a move until we break resistance on this guy, but should end up being a pretty good trade. Next, we'll go over to the NYX, and I'm seeing exchanges starting to heat up quite a bit, but I don't like the stocks like ICE, and I've got a bearish trade on CME that's still going fairly well, by the way. But what you see going on here is the NYX had a little bit of a downtrend. Was started to lead downward before some of the other groups. And what you notice here is a long-term kind of a double bottom here. Two long-term tests of 80, and the stock's starting to turn up. Now, I realize you don't have to tell me, but it's not really a double bottom until we break through resistance here at 100. Okay, it's the higher high that is what makes this a confirmed double bottom. So, in anticipation of this, it might be a feasible strategy to try to ride this thing up to 100 if it's willing to go that destination, obviously. And then when it finally breaks that, if you're already in the trade, well, then you've got a much better reward already within the trade. So I'm looking at this right now, and I'm thinking about it. I haven't taken anything here, but I'm just kind of watching this guy. If it gives me any indication that it wants to run up to 100, there's still about 10, 12 bucks left in that. So it could be pretty good. Next, speaking of double bottoms, I want to look at USANA, and this is one I've been pretty bearish on, riding this thing down in this downward trend. But recently we started to spike up a little bit, and we haven't confirmed yet, but I'm looking for a break of this level to confirm a double bottom and that the trend has changed from a downward trend to an upward trend. As of right now, lower highs, lower lows, but when we start to transition into higher highs and higher lows, that's where you might consider trying to call the bottom on a stock like this. Again, do realize that this is a very risky trade. This is counter trend, but if you see definitive price action that supports this theory, it might be worth taking a risk. Next on the list is EMC. And younger price stock, I like to always throw one of these out there each and every week, but same thing, there's some consolidation going on here, just below $16 a share, and we're also seeing higher lows. Now, I might get questions on the price action saying, well, the resistance line doesn't match up, and anytime you want to double check me on that, go to graph type, go to line chart, and you'll see that what I measure is closing prices, not highs and lows, and the highs are pretty consistent, right around 1560, 1575, right in that range. So I'll switch back here to candle. So EMC, ascending triangle, looking for a breakout and about a $1 move in continuation of that upward trend. Next, RUSHA, Rush Enterprises, Class A shares. Flag pattern going on within this beast here. But I don't know, not really a confirmed break, because as you analyze this, you can see volume has been diminishing, and that's what we want to see as the flag starts to form. But I want to see a good solid breakout of this 24 level. And again, part of the breakout is that you have volume along with it. The two terms should go hand in hand. So wait for the volume spike, wait for the definitive price action, and you should be able to see this thing move about 2 to 3 points in about that range. Next, Hanson's, HANS. This was on our radar, I think, from a couple weeks back. It's still there, hasn't broke yet, so it's getting pretty close, though. I want you to continue to keep an eye on this, just because the way it used to move, I have a feeling maybe it, who knows, it might do that in the future. So, Hanson's triangle, know about it. Next, ZMH. This was a market cast pick a little while ago, just because of the underlying trend is amazing. But for the trader that lacks patience, this probably isn't the trade to look at. But this thing here is also starting to coil up a little bit and form a little bit of its own triangle recently. And you can see my support line that's rising as of right now. And if you look recently at the highs, they're starting to get lower. So another triangular shape going on here in ZMH. If you haven't entered a trade, maybe you might take a breakout of this triangle right about in this range to the upside. And again, not a very volatile stock, so you'd only be looking at about a 5-point move. Okay, we got to keep moving. ACN, Accenture. Look at today's hammer, some pretty good price action. But if you zoom in on this guy, there's some pretty good resistance broke here at 39. We're coming down and retesting that. But as we're doing that, I'm also seeing a little bit of a flag coiling up here. So watch for a breakout of this. This is a great retest, another great pattern, which should put about another 2 to 2.5 point price target on the table. Next, ANSS for the cup and handle players here. And let me just try to draw the rounded shape. And move that just a little bit. Alright, so if you look at the bottom half of this triangle, you can see it kind of rounds out a little bit. It hangs off to the right here from about 56 down to 55, and that would be our handle. Illustrate that here with the line. Here's our resistance, and we're just kind of sitting right at that level right now. So watching for a good breakout and watching for volume to confirm along with this. So maybe a short-term cup and handle on this one. Next, BUCY. Thing's been a pretty great trade thus far. Also, take note. Little flag action going on here. This represents about a what is that about? Almost a 10-point move, about 8 points or so to the upside if it finally breaks. So again, wait for volume to confirm and wait for resistance to be broken. Moving right along. Let's see. RESP, ascending triangle. That's been on the radar, still there. It's getting pretty close to resistance, so keep an eye on that breakout. Next, LSTR. Another symmetrical triangle. Whoops. Here's the lines. Pretty easy to see, right? So about a 3-point move to the upside when it confirms. And last but not least, PWR. Got a little flagpole going here from about 26 up to about 30. So a 4-point move for a $30 stock. We like those. And starting to coil up here as well. So watch for a breakout above 30 for this to continue its trend. So that's what I got as far as price patterns are concerned for this week. I tried to keep the list, not too extensively long, but there's a lot of, as you can see, a lot of bullish setups that are going on out there. So if you have any bearish ones, feel free to leave some comments at the bottom of this post. Thanks a lot for listening, and we'll see you guys on the blog. Take care.